Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good afternoon. Okay. So for this afternoon, so I will give a lecture on research methodology part. Okay. I will concentrate on the introduction part first. Okay. So we have a series of lecture for every week. Okay. Starting from this week. Okay, actually, due to the content is similar, okay, so I guess it's better for me to combine, okay, between the actual or the mainstream UTM student and with the ODL students, okay. So that's why in the attendance, okay, so please for the ODL student, okay, use the link that I have provided, okay. While for the UTM student, okay, so use the link, the first link that I created for you. Okay, actually they are no different. Both of group are UTM students. Okay. Okay. So we will have a 2-hour class. Okay. So we will have a break. Okay, after a 1 hour of lecture. Okay. Then I will continue until end. Most probably we will finish at before 7. Okay. Okay. Do you have any difficulty to fill the attendance forms? Okay. So it will be
Hello, Prof. I didn't see the attendance form.
okay, because you just enter. Yeah. I will paste it again. Okay, the first link is for the mainstream UTM student, okay, and for the second link is for the ODL student. Okay, so we will start the lecture now. Okay. So my name is Ahmad Safwan Irashid. Okay, and this is my my phone number. Okay, actually, you already in the WhatsApp groups. Okay, so you have my number. Okay. So if you have any problems related to this subject, so you can just text me. Okay, or you can email me attachment or any you want to share any file. Okay. So actually for this subject, there will be 4 lecturer. Okay, I will cover on the two parts of this subject. Okay, which is on introductions and problems formulation. And there will be Dr. Hisham, okay, Prof. Azmi, and Prof. Nordin. Okay. So in terms of assessment, okay, or coursework, okay, so you need to come out with a research proposal, okay, which consists of chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3. Okay, I guess we may discuss on next week, because I have shared it on the e-learning. Okay, so you need to submit it on the 1st of February, okay, next year. So you have a 1 year to prepare for your proposal. Okay. So I guess all of you master by top course student. Okay. So at the end of at second and the third semester, okay, you need to prepare for your master project. Okay. So you can make use of your current proposal from this research methodology subject, okay, to extend or to continue for your master project topic. Okay. So I guess it's better for you to choose any topic which is to your ground of, okay. For example, if you are under master by structure master of structure engineering, okay, and then your routine work at your office or your company is related to structural design, okay, so you need to put some element of research, okay, in your current work or your previous work, okay. So we may learn in this topic or in this subject, okay, on how to prepare for the what we call as for the proposal. Okay. Okay. So okay. Actually, my background is on geotechnical engineering. Okay. So I have graduated from the University of Sheffield. Okay. In 2011. Okay. So sorry. Okay, so this is my former supervisor. Okay, his name is Dr. Hurt. Okay, so this is the external examiner. Okay, from Manchester University, Dr. Craig. Okay, and this is me. Okay, at that time it's very slim. Okay, and this is Dr. Cripps. Okay, he is my internal examiner. Okay, and this is Dr. Black. Okay, so he is my second supervisor, former second supervisor. But on the last year, okay, so due to Dr. Hertz uh, has some difficulty or has health problems, so he applied for the VSS, and then my supervisor or the supervision has been replaced to Dr. Black. Okay, but Dr. Hurt came to the university. Okay, and we have a weekly meeting. Okay, although he has retired. Okay, for more than 1 year. Okay, and then still supervise me at that time. Okay. Okay, so this is my family. Okay, so at that time, this is the eldest. Okay, now he's already 15 years old. Okay, at that time, he is just 5 years old. Okay, so this is the second one. Okay, so at that time he just 2 or 3 years old. Okay, so there are another one in my wife tummy. Okay, so during when I completed my PhD, I have 3 kids. Okay, when I first came to Sheffield, at that time I only brought this the elder one. Okay, after I back, I have another 2. Okay, okay. So this is the signboard of University of Sheffield. Okay, so normally when we knew that we want to complete the study, so we have this kind of we take this kind of picture. Okay, So because at that time I already know when I have submitted my thesis, okay, and waiting for the oral examination. Okay. So I guess some of you are not know where is Sheffield located. Okay. So it is about 2 hours by car, okay, from Manchester. I know most of you know Manchester United. Although Manchester United has lost to Liverpool last 2 or 3 days. Okay. So it's about 2 hours. So Manchester is we call as a Midland. Okay. So because it's in the middle of the England, okay. So Sheffield we call as East Midland. So because it is on the same longitude, okay, but it's towards the east of England. Okay. Okay, so this is my thesis. Okay. The title is Behavior of Weak Soil Reinforced with Soil Columns Formed by the Deep Mixing Methods. Okay. So I have carried out for a small scale laboratory test where I perform the test using strain control approach. Okay, where I consolidate a clay layer. Okay, and then became as a ground model. Okay, and then I installed what we call as the soil seaming columns, or in practice we call as a deep mixing methods. Okay, then I load it. Okay, at the same time I have used the digital camera, okay, to capture for the movement. Okay, so this is the movement capture from the testing. Okay, actually this failure mechanism, okay, has been predicted by Prandtl, okay, in 1920 something. Okay. So it means that after almost 100 years, so we have what we call it as most accurate, yeah, at that time most accurate methods, okay, to measure for or to 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 produce the same assumption made by Prandtl. Okay, so this is the most accurate methods. Okay? Because previously some of the researcher, for example, you use a noodle, you know noodle, the Maggi, okay, or me, okay. So they put in front of this testing chamber, okay, and then during the loading, so the researcher capture the image and then look on the deformations of the noodle, okay. So definitely it will be similar from what has been proved by Prandtl. Okay, however, for this method, by using this digital camera, um, with what we call it, with some with the use of MATLAB software, okay, so we can have a more accurate vector movement. Okay, for each vector movement, we know what is the displacement, okay, in number, in millimeter. Okay. Then I did some dissection, okay, to look on what we call it on the column failure mode. Okay, so this is for what we call as a full length or end bearing type of column. So from there, I can look on the type of the failure, okay, due to the loading. So then we come up with several conclusions and publish several paper, okay, from this study. Okay, so that a little bit background on my research during my PhD work in Sheffield. Okay, so I took more than 4 years to complete this study. Okay, okay. So the study is to investigate the performance, okay, or the behavior in terms of what we call as the failure patterns, the column failure modes, and also we produce several graphs, okay, what we call as a prediction or preliminary uh, design graph, okay, for the deep mixing methods. Okay. So actually, what we have investigated is based on the research gap, okay, that has not been carried out by the previous researcher. Okay. So that is the research is all about. Okay, we try to fill the gaps that has not been studied by the previous researcher. Okay, so by conducting this test, okay, we can contribute to the knowledge of this particular subject. Okay. Okay. Okay, for the course outcomes, okay, for this research methodology subject, okay, the student should able, okay, to understand or to comprehensive understanding on all aspect of research. Okay, so I will list several type of research. Okay, then you may use it for your master project subject later on. Okay. So a guide on how to conduct research in a systematic way, okay, because actually research is all on how we do it systematically. Okay. A guide to solve and analyze data and result. Okay. You have a several result. Okay. So then what tools that you want to use to analyze it. Okay. And later on you can come or make some conclusion on the result that you have for example, create any relationship, okay, between one or two parameter, two or three parameter. Okay, a guide on writing technique and presentation skill. Okay, so at the end of this subject, okay, for the assignment, you need to produce a technical, a proposal. Okay, so I also have give one example in the e-learning. Okay, so we may go through for next week. Okay, for the example, okay, on how to produce what we call as a proposal. Okay, okay. Okay, the course contents. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, 8 topics. Okay, whereby for my part, okay, I will discuss on the introductions and problem formulation. Okay, and later on we will continue by the other lecturer. Okay, I guess each lecturer will cover 2 topics. Okay, digital review, research design. Okay, I'm not sure who will cover for this topic. Okay, and then continue by result analysis and writing and presentation. Okay, and the last one will be the evaluation of research and thesis and research organizations. Okay. Okay. However, during my lecture, most probably I will also touch a little bit on the other topic as well, because actually it's we have exposed with the research for more than 10 years, I guess. Okay. All of us has been exposed to the research more than 10 years. So for my case, I graduated in 2011, so it almost more than 10 years. Okay. Okay. So my most probably I will share some of tips, okay, in preparing for the proposal. Okay. Although my topic is only covered on the introduction and problem formulations. Okay. Okay. So the assessment, okay. You may look on the assessment, but we may discuss next week. Okay? Because it's very early to discuss on the assessment. Okay. So you need to prepare for chapter 1, introduction, review, methodology. Okay. So actually you can look on the example that I have shared in the e-learning. Okay. I will share another example for the later on for the next class. Okay. So, but my example actually is more related to the structure. Okay, because I had last semester, uh, some of the students are from the structure master by top course. Okay. Okay. So you will be assessed your the assessment will be made on how you prepare or you produce the report. Okay. So it should not more than 21 pages. Okay. And should be submit on the 1st of February. Okay. So you may learn on the plagiarism topic. Okay. I guess on the last class. Okay. So you need to use the Turnitin software, okay? And the similarity should less than 20%. Okay? So please carefully, okay, when you want to copy and paste, you need to rephrase what we call as the words, okay, or the sentence, okay. So you need to practice it, okay. Because if more than 20%, okay, we could not accept the report. Okay. So we create what we call as the submission folder. Okay. On the same week, okay, of 1st February. Okay. So you can submit on the e-learning. Okay. And later on, all the lecturer, okay, we assess each proposal. Okay. So we go for the introduction. So there will be no calculation on this subject, okay, but I will show some of methods in terms on how to derive what we call as a dimensionless approach, okay, which is important, okay, if you are using, for example, a lab scale test. Okay. For example, for my case, I'm using a lab scale test. Okay. However, I have produced what we call as a dimensionless chart. Okay. So means that if somebody want to validate my result, okay, so he or she can use this dimensionless approach. Okay. For example, if he using a huge testing chamber or using what we call it as use a full scale or site testing, so he or she can use my chart because I'm producing a dimensionless design chart. Okay. So there will be no calculation for my topics. Okay. So you just listen carefully from my lecture, and I will share the recorded version, okay, after we have complete the class in the e-learning. Okay. So what is research? Okay, I have provide a hint, okay, on when I share my experience conducted my PhD. Okay. So it's about we have a systematic approach. Okay. So we want to what we call as to reduce the gap of knowledge on that particular area. Okay. So there is there is there is a part of what we call as a research. Okay. Okay. So this is an example case one. Okay. Okay. So I need your response. Okay. So Mr. Samad or Encik Samad prepare a paper on computer usage in secondary school. Okay, after reviewing literature on the subject available in his university library and called it as a piece of research. Okay, so what do you think? Okay. Is it a research or just a report? Okay. What do you think? I have highlighted here reviewing literature. Okay, good. Okay. So yeah, I didn't use any interactive quiz or apps. Okay. So you just can use the what we call the chat box. Okay. Some of you comment is just a report. Okay. So okay, then we go for another example. Okay. So Mr. Ali says that he has researched and complete a document which give informations about each of his students, their SPM result, their parents' incomes, and distance of their schools from home. Okay. So might be he has produced what we call as a survey form. Okay. Or he may use the form information form, okay, from his student, okay, and then come up with what we call as a table, okay, which which show the student age, okay, SPM result, okay, parent income and distance of their school from home. Okay. So can we say this is a research? Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay. So then we move to this third case. Okay. The case number 3. Okay. Mr. Wilson participated in a workshop on curriculum development and prepare what he calls a research report on the curriculum for building technician. He did this through a literature survey on the subject and by discussing with the participants of the workshops. Okay? So in this case, it is clearly a report. Okay. Okay. Although he mentioned it's a research report. Okay. It's just a report, a simple report. Okay. On the curriculum developments. Okay. Okay. So he simply gather all the informations and then come up with a report. Okay. So all of these 3 cases, okay, we can consider or call as a report, okay, because it's straightforward job or work. Okay, so it doesn't have what we call as a systematic flow, okay, on how to carry out for the research. Okay. So none of the above cases can be classified under the name of research. Okay. Okay, so this is the last case. Okay. A general manager of a car producing company was concerned with the complaints received from the car user, okay, that the car they produce have some problems with rattling sound at the dashboard and the rear passenger seat after a few thousand kilometers of driving. Okay. So as a general manager, okay, so he need to listen from his customer, okay, regarding these problems. Okay. There are sound on the dashboard and the rear passenger seats, okay, after 1,000 kilometers of driving. Okay. So okay, okay. That is the first step. Okay. He received a complaint. Okay. Now we look what actually or what is his action, okay, to solve this kind of problems. Okay. So do you know when you see a problems, okay, either you can looking at a problems, okay, seeing a problem as a potential to be solved. Okay. So in order to solve it, okay, so we need to first, or we need to have the following step or the flow chart. Okay. So for this case, okay, so the general manager, okay, has come up with a flow of work, okay, okay, where he lists three what we call a potential of work, okay, that he need to carry out, okay, to solve the problems. Okay, so for the first one, based from the complaints by the customer, okay, so he has identified the various factor influencing the problems. Okay, based on his experience as well. Okay, so based on the observation that he has made, okay, and based from the complaint from the client, okay, so he's identified, okay, the problems, okay, and then he know that is probably a several factor that influencing the problems. Okay, so that is the first thing. Okay, so we can call it as a problem statement. Okay, he then formulated the problems and generate a hypothesis or guess, okay, or conjecture. Okay, so then he formulate the problems, okay, or made a guess, okay, what is the causes of these problems, okay. Okay, later on, okay, he construct a checklist. Okay, so this is related to methods, methodology, okay, and obtain requisite information from a representative sample of car. Okay, so on the third flow of work, okay, so he construct a checklist. Okay, so this is more related to the methods that he want to use. Okay, okay, then he analyze the data. Okay, after he has run carry out for the testing based on the checklist. So he has analyzed, he has obtained the data and then analyzed data, okay, that has been collected, okay, and interpreted the result in the light of his hypothesis. Okay, so the second one is he has created the hypothesis, and based on the result or based on the finding that he has made, okay, then he can confirm, okay, with the number two, okay, does the problem is related to what causes, okay, then he can make a conclusions. Okay, so this is what we call as a research flow or a systematic way to carry out for a research. Okay, okay, so case 4 is an example of research, okay, because the research went through a sequence of steps which were in order and those systematic. Okay, so that is the keyword. Okay, the researcher did not just jump at the conclusions, but use scientific methods of inquiry in reaching at conclusions. Okay, so that's why when you read for any thesis, okay, actually uh, in UTM, okay, or in other university, especially in UK, okay. So the thesis also has been, we need to produce a thesis based on 5 main chapter. Okay. For example, the first one, we should have an introduction, which cover on the research background, okay, research problems, objective of the study, and what will be the scope of the study, and also the limitation of the study. Okay, so that is for the chapter 1. Okay, okay. Then we have a chapter 2, which is discussed on literature review. Okay, so this chapter 2, okay, we need to have a good knowledge, okay, on the problem itself. Okay, for example, if you want to study on soil stabilization, okay, so we need to know what is soil stabilization is all about, then we need to go to dig in detail, okay, by referring to any reference or journal which discuss on soil stabilization. Okay, and at the same time, in the literature review part, okay, we need to get more information on the previous study that has been made by the previous researcher. Okay? So from there, we can identify what is the gaps, okay, that has not been covered by the previous researcher. So in the chapter 2, we should have a summary, okay, which discuss on the limitations of the previous study and what is the new, or what is new that we want to propose for this new study. Okay. Okay. Then the chapter 3 is more on methodology. Okay. So that's why we need to know what type of methods that we use. Okay. For example, for my case, I'm using a small scale equipment. Okay. So I need to put the limitations on the chapter 1. Okay. This study only cover for a small scale instrument or testing only. Okay. So in the methodology, we need to discuss on the calibration, okay, what type of device that we want to use. Okay. So that is for what we call as a science approach. Okay. So there will be another social science approach. Where they use a survey form. Okay. So for the survey form, they will be more discussed on the quantitative rather than qualitative. Okay. Might be they discuss on the behavior. They want to get the response from the human or from the worker, okay, in terms of satisfactions, okay, or what we call or during this pandemic, okay, want to discuss on the on the on on the health, on the mental illness, for example. Okay, so that is for the what we call as for the social science approach. Okay, based on all the equipment that we use or any instruments, okay, then we need to measure it, okay, and then discuss in the chapter 4, okay, which is on data or result analysis. Okay, but in your case, you only need to prepare for chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3. Okay, so you can also include on the chapter 3, which is discussed on the uh, on the on the uh, on the expected result. Okay, so what is the expected result from your methodology or from your study? Okay, so in the chapter 4, okay, we discuss on the what we call as on the research result analysis. Okay, then the last chapter will be normally is on conclusions. Okay, so the conclusion actually is to answer all the question related to the objective. Okay, if we have 3 objectives, so we need to categorize or put our conclusion chapter in 3 sub discussion based on the objective. Okay, so that is research is all about. Okay, okay. So in terms of the definition, okay, research may be defined as a careful and a systematic process of inquiry to find answer to problems of interest. Okay, so I just highlight the keywords here. Okay, this is based on several reference that I have made. Okay, I have referred. Okay, so another one is to do research is to investigate the problem systematically, okay, carefully, okay, and thoroughly. Okay. For example, if you have only 2 or 3 result, okay, but you need to discuss it thoroughly. Okay. Okay. For example, when you increase, okay, uh, the temperature, okay, the strength of the material will be reduced. This is just example, okay. So then, okay, we need to investigate why this phenomenon happen. Okay, might be from any literature, okay, or you carry out for example, if you carry out for physical testing, then you can use the numerical tools, okay, to validate the result, okay, and then you can do the dissection later on, okay, from the numerical tools, okay. So that is how we conduct and discuss it thoroughly, okay. So for example, for my case, okay, there will be a slightly different between the laboratory test and also the numerical test, okay. So I need to identify why this difference occur, okay. So I need when I go through to several researcher, several journal, okay. So they have mentioned on the friction between the soil and the chamber, or on the testing chamber or testing box, okay. So I need to calculate what is the friction between the wall and also the soil, okay. So I need to include in my laboratory result, and at the end, okay, so I can find I can found the cause of the difference. Actually, it's due to the friction between the wall and the soil. Because in physical, we cannot minimize it as similar to what we have in the numerical. Okay. So in that case, we need to identify what is the cause of the difference. Okay. Up to that extent. Yeah, I guess for your master project, you doesn't need to go to that kind of discussion. Okay. For example, if you want to continue for your PhD, so you need to look on up to that level. Okay. So research is an organized, systematic database, okay, critical scientific inquiry or investigation into a specific problem undertaken with the objective of finding answer or solution to it. Okay. So we want to find the reason on, for example, on this behavior. Okay. Although it is positive or negative, okay, so that will be a finding. Okay. But normally we need to prove it is a positive improvement. Okay. So I didn't find any thesis that discuss on the negative improvement. Okay. So if negative improvement, so I guess it's not necessary to carry out for the testing, unless we may put for example preliminary testing that we carry out and we have a failure. Okay. Okay, for example, for my case, I in my thesis I only share only the positive result only, means that the success result only. Okay, however, during the first stage, okay, or the first testing or first trial test, I have carried out more than what I have put in my thesis. Okay. Might be 20% is a failure methods. Okay, so the rest is after carry out a proper way. So I get the good result. Okay, so we also can share the negative side of the testing as a learning process, or when somebody reads the failure case, so he may not do this do this the same way. Okay? Okay? So that will be a good explanation. However, we need to put in our thesis a very positive result, okay, or for example of improvement. Okay. So research is an endeavor or effort to discover answer to intellectual and practical problems through the application of scientific method. Research is a systematic effort to gain new knowledge. Here, research is a systematic process of collecting and analyzing information in order to increase our understanding on the phenomena about where we are concerned or interest. So just you can read later on. Research is the process of finding solution to problem after a thorough study analysis of the situational factors. Research provide the needed information that guides manager to make informed decision to successfully deal with the problems. Okay, this is related if we have a company or we work as a manager. Okay, so the information provided could be the result of a careful analysis of data gathered firsthand or of a data that are already available. Okay, either you can do the testing, okay, or you can use a secondary data. Okay, for example, you work with you have a experience work with your previous company, okay, and then you need to get the permission to use the data that already been carried out, or the testing being carried out by previously by you and that in that company, so you can use that data. Okay. So objective. Okay. The purpose of the research is to discover answer through the application of scientific procedure. Okay. The objective are to gain. Okay, this is the objective of the research. To gain a familiar with phenomena or to achieve new insight into it. Okay, exploratory or formulative research. Okay. This is the type of the research. We have exploratory or formulative research. Okay. To explore for any new phenomena, okay, to portray accurately the characteristic of a particular individual, situation or group. Okay, this is more on the descriptive research, okay, where we want to look on the behavior. Okay, for example, this is more related to social sign. Okay, to determine the frequency with which something occur or with which it is associated with something else. Okay, so this is diagnostic research. Okay, so this is another research, okay, where we look on the frequency. Okay, okay, to test a hypothesis of a causal relationship between variable. Okay, so this is more related to hypothesis or testing research. Okay. So the goal of research is to solve problem of interest. This problem may be of a theoretical or practical in nature. Okay. So the scientific community tend to be more interested in research that push the frontier of knowledge, which the aim of research should be to describe, predict, explain, interpret, or demystify or clarify any phenomena. Okay. So it depends, okay, on what type of research that you want to involve. Okay. But definitely we're not able to solve all the problems in the world. Okay. Okay, during my first stage of PhD, okay, so might be I'm very ambitious to solve a lot of problems, but at the end, on the third year, at the end of the fourth year, we just want to finish, okay, or to complete the study only. Okay. Okay. So systematic, okay, because it follows certain steps that are logical in order. Okay, these steps are understanding the nature of the problem to be studied and identifying the related area of knowledge. Okay, so we need to identify first the problems. Okay, what is the problem that we want to solve? Okay, there will be two different. We want to solve the problem. Okay, or we want to create a problem. Okay. Okay. So actually we want to solve the problems. Okay, let's say for example, okay, uh, uh, okay, if that area doesn't have any, it's not necessary to build a bridge, okay, because there are no river. Okay, so no need for us to build to have a river first and then build the bridge. Okay, so for example, but for uh, to produce a new city, for example, in Putrajaya, so they need to build a very beautiful view. Okay, so they need to have a bridge, and also they need to build a what we call as a lake. Okay, for a good ecosystem. Okay, okay. So we need to solve the problems. Okay, we doesn't want to create a problem and solve it. Okay? So they will be two different. Okay. So reviewing literature to understand how others have approached or deal with the problems. Okay. So once we know the problems, okay, so we need to look or dig for the any journal, okay, or any article, okay, which is related to that problems, okay, and then to find is there any what we call as any methods, okay, that normally been used by the previous researcher. Okay. Okay. If it doesn't have any if there are no discussion on that particular issue, okay, so there will be a good chance for us, okay, especially for those who are want to pursue for the PhD level, because PhD level should have a novelty, okay, which is has not been carried out by any other people to solve that kind of problems. Okay? But it could not be a major contribution. It only at the moment, okay, most of the PhD student only solve for a minor or provide a minor contribution, because a lot of study has been carried out in the rest of the world now. Okay? So from the literature, then we need to know how to collect the data, okay, in an organized and controlled manner so as to arrive at a valid decision. Okay? So then we may analyze the data appropriately, okay, drawing a conclusions. Okay, so that is what as we have discussed on the case of the general manager to solve the problem related to the sound from the car. Okay. So this is the flow. Okay. Okay. So following a scientific methods, okay. So this is another approach, okay, where they use the inductive and deductive reasoning. Okay, so this deductive reasoning actually has been proposed by Aristotle. Okay, on yeah, I think 4th century before Christ. Okay, so in inductive reasoning is popular proposed by Jason Bacon. Okay, so it's more related to how we look or we do the observation. Okay, so I also have share a link of YouTube. Okay, just to show you on the inductive and deductive reasoning uh, um, discussion. Okay, okay. Maybe it's not we will not use it in our research, but we can use it when we discuss or when we have a meeting with the client. Okay, okay? So we can have this kind of inductive and deductive reasoning. Okay. So actually the inductive reasoning is using a particular example to reach a general conclusion. Okay, so they use the specific example and then come up with the general conclusion. While for the deductive, uh, For the deductive, they use general logic and then come up with the specific solution. Okay. So this is example of inductive and deductive. Okay. Because they want to come up with the hypothesis. Okay? So for example, as an observation, elephant depends on water to exist. Okay? All observed animal depends on water to exist. Then they come up with the conclusion that all biological life depends on water to exist. Okay. So for the inductive, there will be a probability, okay, where the conclusion is true or false. Okay. However, for the deductive, is certainly can be true. Okay. Okay, because they based on the existing theory. Okay. Start with existing theory. All biological life depends on water to exist. Okay, formulate hypothesis is based on the existing theory. All land mammal depends on water to exist, and then they can conduct a test based on the hypothesis that has been made. Study all land mammals species to see if they depend on water. Then analyze the result. Does the data reject or support the hypothesis? All land mammal species depend on water to support hypothesis. Okay, however, in your project, sorry, in your assignment, okay, if you want to put hypothesis section, okay, you can put it, okay, based on your general assumption. Okay, for example, if we increase the temperature, the strength will be increased. Okay, so based on your logic or based on any theory. Okay, because you are not you doesn't have time to test it for this chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. Okay. 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 Okay, following the scientific methods, okay, inductive reasoning, construction of hypothesis from the casual observation and background knowledge. Okay, from examination of this, the researcher established certain expectation while using the deductive reasoning. Okay, reasoning out consequence or implication of hypothesis followed by testing of the implications and confirmation of rejection of the hypothesis. Okay. So this is the summary for both inductive and deductive reasoning. Okay. So the finding of investigation add new knowledge to the existing structure of knowledge. Okay. Further hypotheses are generated from the existing structure and the casual observation, and testing of this may add to the new applicable knowledge. This process continues in this manner, and therefore research becomes cyclic and dynamic. Okay. So this is just a approach that you can use, right? In your project or in your master project later on. Okay, but it's not necessary to use. Okay, just to have a further explanation on this approach. Okay. So scientific method of inquiry, okay, generation of hypothesis. Okay, this is the cycle that has been discussed previously, okay, based on the inductive and deductive reasoning. Okay. Okay. So research type, there are many ways of classifying research. One way is to classify it by function. Okay. Basic of pure research is motivated by curiosity and aims to advance the theoretical knowledge. Okay. So that is for basic of pure research. Okay. Normally for the civil engineering student, okay, because we are engineering, okay, then we are more related to applications. Okay, so this is more related to what we call as to the science stream or science researcher. Okay, where they look on the pure science research. Okay, then applied research is concerned with applying scientific theory to real life problems. Okay, so this is what we are doing now. Okay, we use the applied research. Okay, all those research activity are classified according to their different natures. They will overlap and merge from one into the other. Okay, might be we use the applied way. Okay, however, in terms of how to discuss the result, it might be we need to have some explanation based on the pure or basic research idea. Okay, for example, if we are doing on soil stabilization, okay, so we need to discuss in terms of the chemical compositions, okay, or what will be the reactions when we mix the soil with the cement, for example, or the soil with a lime. Okay, what will be the chemical reaction from this mix? Okay. So research can divide into 5 categories where we have basic, pure, fundamental research, okay, exploratory research, applied research, development research, design research. Okay. So refer to, okay, I have discussed it before this. Okay. Okay. So the problem with the pure research, okay, is not subject to a time restraint and is an open-ended. Okay. Yeah, for example, I have complete my PhD within 4 years. Okay. But my wife, when she did her PhD in chemistry, in pure science, so she has completed her PhD for more than 7 years. Okay, because she carry out or conduct for what we call it for a very pure or experiment. Okay, so she need to prove, okay, or to prove that this material, okay, or this mixture, okay, is related to the fundamental of the chemistry. Okay, so that's why it's very complicated. Okay, if you want to involve or embark in this fundamental research. Okay, because it's very uncertain. Okay, exploratory research. Okay, so this is more related to we want to explore. Okay, applied research is more on a practical application. Okay, so this is much more straightforward. Okay, but we need to know what is the limitations. Okay, we cannot cover or we cannot solve all the problems. Okay, so that's why we have a scope in our first introduction part. Okay, that's the limitation. We only cover, for example, for floating type of pile. Okay, we not cover on the end bearing type of pile. Okay, so that is the limitation. Okay. So development research is more on production. Okay, if you want to produce a new sensor, okay, or prototype. Okay, for example, one of my student, okay, he has produced a prototype, okay, for slope monitoring system. Okay, so then he come out, he carry out for the study and come out with this development research. Okay, okay, product development, process development. Okay. So design research. Okay, this is more related to the cost performance improvement. Okay. Okay, so I can go fast. So or you can read. this. Okay. Okay. Descriptive and analytical research. So this is the type of research, applied and fundamental research. Quantitative and qualitative. Okay, so this is, for example, for somebody that related to social science or project management. Okay, so he use the qualitative research. Okay, while for example for any laboratory or site investigation, so we are more related to a quantitative. Okay, that we have, for example, stress, strain, okay, deformations. Okay. Conceptual or empirical. Actually, empirical is more related to several of experience or observation that we meet. Okay, for example, if you want to create for a new relationship, okay, so we can gather all the informations from the previous researcher and then put in a one line or a one relation. Okay. On-time research, okay, longitudinal research. Okay, so this is some of example. Okay. So I will not explain in detail. So you can read it from the notes. Establishment of research objectives. Okay. Okay, in your proposal, okay, you need to come up with the research objective. Okay. So actually, research objective, we need to can be measured. Okay. Okay. So and we need to use some wording that, for example, to determine, okay, to establish or to discover. Okay, so the word should be a concise word, okay? Very specific. Okay? I will discuss in terms of how to create the objective, okay, by next week, okay, based on the assignment, based on example. Okay. So scope of study and limitation. Okay, the study should be focused on very specific issue and could not provide answer within a certain limitation of time. Okay. So should be addressed in the dissertation or thesis. Recommendation will be suggested on the conclusion chapter. Okay. So we need to have some section on limitation. Okay. Then, okay, based on our study that we made, okay, we can make some recommendation later on. Okay. Okay, for example, if you want, you have only 6 months for your or a year for master project and pre-master project and master project. So you need to very focus, okay, on what issue that you want to solve, okay, within that 6 or 1 years of period of time. Okay. Okay, research background and benefit. Okay, in your chapter 1 also, in your research proposal, okay, you need to identify what is the research background, research problem, and what is the benefit that people can gain from your research. Okay. So research problem usually gained from the limitation of previous work should be highlighted in the introduction chapter or section. Okay, so that is for the research background and benefit. Okay, you need to identify what is the problem and also what is the benefit from your study, what people can gain from your study. Okay. So can we have a rest for 10 minutes? Okay, then we may continue later on. Okay. I guess I need to be more, yeah, to give a lecture more fast. Okay. So we have a rest for 10 minutes. Okay, we continue at 6:20. Okay. I will stop the recording. Continue at 6:20. Okay.